Hello, hello. We are back again, and we are going into one of my favorite parts of this whole course. We have learned so many things about food. We've learned so many things about where food comes from, what plant staples are, what protein staples are, what dairy staples are. We started at the very beginning with the three pillars of Sizzle Kids, which is food, which is where we're at now, what it is, what it isn't, nutrition, how that food works in your body, and cooking. We're going to be learning all about how to cook. But here, I really wanted you all to have this foundation of where real food comes from. We want to be able to outsmart big food, fast food, and junk food. Real food comes from plants and animals, and that is all. Everything is derived, everything comes from plants and animals, everything that's good for us to eat. And we go over all kinds of ways that you get your food, that the way that food comes to you from growing your own all the way through farmers markets, health food stores, all the way up to giant grocery stores. So lots and lots of things we've learned so far. We've gone over seasonality and geography and why geography is important, why weather is important, why terrain is important, what each of the countries of the world and the continents of the world are most known for. Plant staples, protein staples, dairy staples, all these things. And now we can pull it all together. And this is a super fun part of this course. And we're going to take a little trip around the world and we're going to find out what our friends are eating for breakfast in other countries, what they're eating for lunch, dinner, snacks, desserts, what everybody in other countries are eating. So let's dive in and let's take a look. All right, first, we're going to talk about breakfast. All right. So, I've picked just 6 countries for each meal. So, for breakfast we have 6, lunch we have 6, dinner we have 6. For snacks and dessert, we have 6 more countries, and in each of these countries we're going to do or in each of these meals we're going to do something a little different and a little bit fun. Is we're going to have a quiz at the end of each of these presentations. You have this video, you have the written lesson, and at the end of that, there's going to be quizzes in this section on all the country flags. So I've put all the country flags here for you to start to get to know and start to get to recognize. And there's going to be a quiz that you can take, and you can win discounts on Sizzle Kids courses, on the next Sizzle Kids courses that you'll want to take. Because, of course, you'll want to take more. We have a great time here learning about all these super important topics, but we do it in a really fun way, in a way that I hope that you guys understand and will remember. So, first, let's just start with some of the countries that we have for our breakfast. So, if you were going to have breakfast in the United States, you could expect to see something like eggs fried, uh, scrambled, over easy, all different kinds of ways to cook eggs. We go over this a lot in our egg section in dairy staples. So go back to that one, check out all the different ways you can cook eggs. You could expect some eggs, you could expect some pancakes, maybe some waffles, some toast, breakfast meats like sausage or bacon, things like that. The United States is known for these humongous breakfasts, right? That you can get at diners, you can make yourself, all kinds of things. But those are just some of the things that you might see in an American breakfast, a United States breakfast, I should say. Next, let's go straight down on this slide from there, and we're going to look at Mexico. Mexico has delicious breakfasts. Mexican food is probably my favorite food in the whole world, and I've had this dish called chilaquiles hundreds of times, well, dozens of times probably. And basically, what this is crispy tortilla chips simmered in salsas, covered with either a red sauce or a green sauce, and it's usually covered in cheese that's melted. Um, it's got all kinds of onions, cilantro, all kinds of beautiful flavors that are the staples in the those regions. So you're going to have tomatoes and onions and chilies, cilantro, and all these beautiful, amazing flavors. So that dish is called chilaquiles. We will learn how to cook it in other courses and in other videos that I'm going to send to y'all. But that is Mexico. So now, if we think of our friends in the United States, eggs, bacon, and toast, some pancakes maybe. Our friends in Mexico, maybe some chilaquiles, some crispy tortilla chips with some eggs and sauce and onions and cilantro, delicious. And then let's go back up to the middle here, and we've got Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a beautiful country that I visited a couple times and can't wait to go back. And they have very simple food. So they'll have meats and beans and rice and a protein and not a lot of sauces like you'll see in Mexico. So it's a little bit different. These are just sample dishes. You'll find something different in every single country. These are just little bits, little examples, so you can kind of take your ideas of your life and where you live and your neighborhood and your city and your country and kind of start to think about what friends all over the world are eating for breakfast at the same time. And try that tomorrow. When you're eating your breakfast, think about some of these dishes, about what your Mexican friends, your Costa Rican friends, and we're going to go through some other countries here too. Think about what they're eating. And if you'd like to have their breakfasts and try their breakfasts, which of course you can do at any time in your home. And I'm going to teach you how to make all this stuff as we grow together here at Sizzle Kids. So in Costa Rica, this is a traditional Costa Rican breakfast called gallo pinto, which basically just is rice and beans, spiced rice and beans, spiced with tomatoes and onions and all kinds of delicious things. Black beans and rice are staples, are plant staples in Costa Rica. So you'll see a lot of the staples of the region in their food, in their meals. And it's inexpensive, it's nutritious, it's plentiful. You have your scrambled eggs here and really simple, delicious, nutritious breakfast here in Costa Rica. Now, remember, kids, look at the flags because we're going to have a quiz on these flags. So I just want you to start to become aware of some of the flags of the country so we can enlarge our thinking, not just to our country, but to other countries of the world. And, I all throughout Sizzle Kids, I talk about how, people come together over food and culture and all this kind of stuff. And I love that part of food. And I want to really install that love into you too. So think about these other countries as we're going through this. Okay, let's go straight down from there. Now, France is famous for their croissants, their light pastries, baguettes, butter, jam, coffee, hot chocolate, all these kinds of things. In France, you're likely to see these kind of lighter breakfasts with these pastries. They're just famous for their flaky croissants and different light pastries. So if you go to France, or if you're thinking about your friends in France, think what they might have on a school day before they head out to school is probably maybe a cup of hot chocolate and a croissant. Just an example. Lots of other things for breakfast in all these countries, but these are super fun examples. Next, let's go back over to the top here. And now this is one I can't wait to share with you guys. And someday, maybe some of you will be in the live classes with me, in person classes, and we will try this. This is called Vegemite. And I took my honeymoon in Australia, and I thought it would be like a sweet thing, like that you put on bread, as you can see here, like Nutella, right? Like a hazelnut spread or a chocolate spread, because that's what it looks like to me, an American. But in Australia, this is so different. This is actually a very salty, savory spread. So there's savory, which is kind of more salty, and sweet, which is sweet. We all know. And so this is very popular. It's very typical in Australia for everyone to spread Vegemite on their bread, on their toasted bread, and eat it plain. And what it actually is it's the brewer's yeast that settles at the bottom of beer barrels when they brew beer in Australia, which is a drink, an adult drink. At the bottom, yeast settles and it becomes thick and dark like this, and it's very salty and flavorful. And they jar it and sell it under the name Vegemite and spread it on the bread, and that's their breakfast. So this is really different from what we are used to in the United States, but you can get Vegemite pretty much anywhere. And so I recommend go out and try it and think of your friends in Australia when you do. Last of all, we're going to, oh, one thing about Australia, I want you to look at the flag here. Australia came from England. So England set up and I guess you would say created Australia. And so the English flag is this part right up here with the red stripes, and then the rest is Australia. So that's it's just something to remember about Australia and the history of the world, that Australia and the British Empire are linked. So, okay, the last country that we're going to go over is Japan. Now, Japan's flag is very simple. It's white with this red dot in the middle. Really easy to recognize, really easy to see and remember. So, try to remember that one because it's going to come up later in your quiz. And again, kind of like Costa Rica, Japan has meals where there's a lot of different simple ingredients that are offered at various meals. So here in Japan, you may see for breakfast, you'll see rice. You'll see rice at every single meal in Japan, usually. And you might see nori, which is seaweed, or natto, which are fermented soybeans, miso, which is also fermented paste, maybe a little piece of protein, like a little piece of fish, or a little piece of tofu, or a little piece of beef. And you'll have all these different little flavors that come together to make a really nutritious, really, really healthy meal. And so it's very different in Japan than, say, in Australia, where you'll have Vegemite on toast, or where in France, where you'll have maybe a flaky croissant with chocolate or jam inside. Mexico, where you'll have just just delicious crispy chips and eggs and sauce and salsa. And then in America, where you'll have sweet pancakes and fried eggs and bacon and sausage. So lots of different things all over the world. And what's interesting about this, and I want you guys to remember, is what's typical for any meal in any of these countries is what their staples are, what their plant staples are, and their protein staples, and their dairy staples as well. So if there's a country that's very plentiful in fish, like Japan, which is an island country, you're going to get a lot of fish in your meals, including breakfast. In America, you may not get as much fish here, maybe some smoked salmon or maybe something like that, but usually you would get more of your breakfast meats and your eggs and your pancakes. In Mexico, you'll get more of your tomatoes and onions and peppers because that's what grows there. So, this is what your friends around the world may be eating for breakfast. There's tons of other countries. I've picked ones that I think just have really interesting meals. And so think about everybody in the world when they're sitting down to breakfast, and picture these pictures in your mind and enjoy thinking about your friends and what they're eating all over the world. All right, we will see you in the next lesson, which is where we're going to be talking about what your friends might be eating for lunch at their school lunches or at their houses. All right, we'll see you there.